Hey Platter Talk friends, I'm Scott from Platter Talk, and I'm here today to demonstrate a new soup that we're doing in the kitchen today. I don't know about you, but when the temperatures start to dip outside, I think soup. I also get my flannel shirt out. So today we're doing both. Flannel shirt came out and soup's going into the pot. What we're doing today is, I also think comfort food when it gets cold out. So what we're doing today is we're going to combine one of our very good recipes on the site, our Golumpki recipe, and we're going to turn that into a stuffed cabbage soup. So that's what we're doing today, is we're going to do a stuffed cabbage soup. So let me go ahead and tell you what we have for ingredients, and I'll kind of walk you through what we've done so far. So over here what we have is we have some basic ingredients. We've got some diced tomatoes, some V8 juice, some beef broth, tomato paste, some rice. We have some herbs like thyme. We have paprika, salt and pepper. We have, of course, the main star of the dish, which is our cabbage, which I have already kind of chopped up a little bit. And then in the pot, when you weren't here, I started this process off by taking about a pound of ground Italian turkey sausage, and I browned that up in here, and about a medium onion and about 3 cloves of garlic. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to add this cabbage into the pot, and the reason I'm doing this right now is I want to get this cabbage wilted down just a little bit, and I want to start the cooking process on it just a little bit. I apologize that you didn't see how big the cabbage was, but it was about a medium size, a small to medium sized cabbage. And you can definitely use more or less depending on what you want to do. And I just want to get the cabbage in here, and I just want to start the cooking process on this a little bit to get it just a little bit softer, a little bit more wilted down. You know what? Honestly, if you don't want to take the time to do this, because what I'm really thinking is this would be a great crock pot recipe. So if you were to brown up your beef or your sausage like we used, your onions and so forth, and threw that in the crock pot, you could dump everything else in the crock pot and let it go all day. So I don't think it's going to be the end-all be-all if your cabbage isn't completely done when you start the process through. So I'm going to go ahead and get this going here for a second. What I'll be adding in next is I'm going to take some tomato paste, and I like using the tomato paste to kind of deepen the flavor a little bit for our soup. It'll also thicken it up a little bit, you know, as a thickener. And I don't know if you guys have seen this before, seen me do this before or not, but I do this quite a bit with tomato paste for when I'm making sauces. And what I do is I take my tomato paste and I just make a little hole in the center of whatever I'm cooking. And I put my tomato paste there, and I let my tomato paste brown. And the reason I do that is because I want to deepen that flavor of that tomato paste. So how long do you want me to brown it for, you probably ask? You know, just until it's a little bit brown. Think brown equals flavor. So if you let that go for a second, that's great. So my tomato paste is in here. I'm going to let that cook just for a minute or so. My cabbage is still kind of steaming in there. I don't know if you've ever tried our stuffed cabbage recipe or not. Otherwise, we call it Golumpki. I grew up Polish, and it was Golumpki in our house. But we do have 2 great recipes on the website. This will now be 3 for variations of stuffed cabbage. We have the traditional stuffed cabbage rolls. We have a lazy version, which means that you don't have to roll the cabbage or the meat mixture into the cabbage. You can kind of make it more like a casserole. And now we're adding to the family this soup, which is a great weeknight meal. Very easy to put together. Once everything's in the pot, I'd say about 25-30 minutes with it covered. Simmering should be great. So now that my tomato paste is browned up just a little bit from what's in the can, everything else I'm just going to go ahead and dump in. So what I'm going to add in is just about a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, or however you pronounce it. I'm going to add in my paprika, my thyme, my salt, and my pepper. And again, you'll have to kind of scroll down to the bottom of the page to get those measurements. I've got a can of diced tomatoes that I'm going to add in. About a half a cup of rice. You could do more or less depending on how you would like it. If you like a lot of rice, put more rice in. I'm starting off with a half a cup of rice in because I know that the rice is going to absorb my liquid and I don't want it to absorb too much. That was V8 juice that I added in. And I'm going to add in about 4 cups of beef broth as well. Whenever I use beef broth or chicken broth that's store-bought, we always use the low sodium because, again, it's easier for you to control the amount of salt that you put in yourself as opposed to having to worry of how much salt is in the beef broth or the chicken broth. And then this is going to get stirred. I'm going to bring this up to a boil to get it going, and once it's at a boil, I'll put a lid on it and then I'll simmer it for probably about 25 to 30 minutes, or until the cabbage is done to your liking. Variations to this, which I think would be really, really good. If you have a can of tomato soup, just your old-fashioned tomato soup, I would put in a can of tomato soup in here as well. We decided to do this on a weeknight when we didn't have the tomato soup, but I use tomato soup all the time for my stuffed cabbage. So tomato soup would be good. If you add a can of tomato soup, I would probably add probably another half a cup to a cup more of beef broth in there, just so you have more of a liquid consistency to it. So I'm going to let this get to a boil, and then, like I said, I'll lid it. But there you go. Look how easy that was to kind of put this together. So the same great flavors of our Golumpki recipe, our stuffed cabbage, but in a weeknight soup. So I want you guys to get out your stock pot, get out your crock pot, and give this one a try because I know that you'll love it. Thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you soon here on Platter Talk.